Today, we're going to break down one of the world's most common and sneakiest health threats. It's a process that can actually start when we're kids and just build up silently for decades. And then, one day, bam, it causes a life-changing event. So let's get into the science of what's really going on. Okay, so before we zoom way in and look at the microscopic level, let's zoom way out. Because to really understand why this matters, you have to see just how huge this problem really is. The numbers, honestly, are kind of staggering. Just let that sink in. Every 40 seconds. That's how often someone in the United States has a heart attack, according to the American Heart Association. Think about it. By the time we're done with this short explainer, it will have happened to several people. That's the kind of relentless pace we're up against. Now, you'll hear the term cardiovascular disease used as this big umbrella. But what's really eye-opening is when you break it down. Look at that chart. Coronary heart disease takes up that massive 40% slice of the pie. It is by far the biggest single killer in this whole category. And its main cause? Well, that's exactly what we're here to talk about. So that really begs the question, right? When you see stats this big, you have to wonder, what's the actual culprit here? What is this biological process that's happening quietly inside millions and millions of people that leads to such a devastating outcome? All right, let's do it. We're going to go from those massive nationwide statistics right down to the cellular level. We're taking a peek inside our own arteries to see exactly how this whole process gets started and how it develops over time. And here's the word of the day, atherosclerosis. You can really just think of it as the slow, silent clogging of your body's plumbing. Imagine this sticky gunk, a mix of cholesterol, fat, and other stuff, building up year after year. It gradually makes those crucial highways that carry blood to your heart and brain narrower and harder. Now this, right here, is absolutely key. This isn't just some disease that shows up when you're old. As Medline Plus points out, the groundwork can be laid way back in your childhood. It's a progressive, lifelong process, which is exactly why talking about this and preventing it early on is so important. So how does it actually happen? Well, it's a step-by-step thing. It starts super small with what's called an initial lesion, where your immune cells start gathering on the artery wall. Then, as those cells soak up fats, you get a fatty streak. Over many years, that grows into a bigger blob of fat called an atheroma. Your body tries to wall it off with a cap, creating a fibroatheroma. But the real danger, the part we all worry about, is that final stage, the complicated lesion, when that cap breaks open. Okay, so that last step, that rupture, that is the moment this slow-motion chronic disease suddenly turns into a full-blown life-or-death emergency. Let's look at exactly what happens when that fragile plaque finally gives way. And here is the plot twist. It's rarely the plaque itself that causes the heart attack. The real danger is when that plaque bursts. Your body sees that rupture as an injury, so it does its job. It rushes in to form a blood clot to patch it up. But in an already narrow artery, that helpful clot becomes a catastrophic dam. It completely chokes off blood flow. And if that happens in an artery going to your heart, that's a heart attack. If it happens in your brain, that's a stroke. And this isn't brand new science. Get this. A landmark study all the way back in 1976 from the World Health Organization laid this all out. This table right here is from that paper, and it's tracking myocardial lesions, that's damage to the heart muscle. Just look at the numbers for men. In the 30 to 39 age group, they found 48 cases. Okay, but just 20 years later, in the 50 to 59 group, that number explodes to 531. That is a more than 10-fold increase. Now, if we pull that same data and just visualize it, the difference is, well, it's stark. In that critical 50 to 59 age range, you see 531 cases of heart muscle damage in men, compared to 144 in women. That means it was happening almost 4 times more often in men during middle age. And the WHO researchers didn't mince words. They basically said that for men, heart disease becomes a serious risk starting as early as their 30s. For women, on the other hand, the risk really starts to ramp up much later and often doesn't catch up to the levels seen in men until they're in their 60s. That is a pretty significant difference in the timeline of this disease. So we've covered the biology and we've seen the population data, but let's bring it back to a personal level. What are the things that actually make up your own individual risk? What are the factors that can put your foot on the gas pedal for this entire process? So here are the usual suspects, according to Medline Plus. Now, some of these, like your age and your family history, you just can't change. But look at all the others.
high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diet, smoking. These are all things that we can actually have some control over. Every single one of them acts like an accelerator for building up that plaque in your arteries.
And that leads us to the most empowering part of this whole story. After all that heavy stuff, here's the really good news. This isn't just about fate. Because so many of these risks are manageable, there are real, concrete steps you can take to protect your arteries and your heart for the long run. The playbook for protecting your heart isn't some big secret, but it is incredibly powerful. You've got the cornerstones you'd expect, right? Healthy food, regular exercise, and definitely not smoking. But look at the last few on this list: managing stress and getting good quality sleep. These are also absolutely critical pieces of the puzzle when it comes to keeping your arteries healthy. So we'll leave you with this final thought. Just knowing that the seeds of this disease can be planted decades before they ever cause a problem, well, it kind of reframes everything, doesn't it? It means heart health isn't something you worry about later. It's a project for right now. So the question is, what's just one choice, one small change that you can make today that will pay off with a healthier heart down the road?